So welcome. This is a June session of the Lancaster-Lebanon Score Chapter, and we are pleased to have as our partner today, Josh Irons, who I will give a very brief bio in a moment, and then turn it over to him to really illuminate his expertise. In the meantime, I do want to point out that we are going to record this, and your continued participation indicates that you give us permission to do so. This will be available later on the chapter YouTube channel. In order to minimize background noise, I will mute the entire audience, but Josh really wants to make this interactive for us. So as you type in chat questions, please feel free to do so. He's a multitasker. He can handle the speaking and the questions as well. And that way I can stay out of your way and just simply look in the background here. But with that said, a brief bio for Josh is that he's the CEO of River Avenue Digital, a digital-first full-service marketing agency that helps small businesses find new clients and to build relationships with their current clients. He's a seasoned leader and dedicated mentor of talent, and he has more than 20 years of experience using digital and offline marketing tactics to grow brands and revenue for both small and large organizations. Now, Josh has got a much more extensive bio, in which he may read a little bit to you later, but the parts that I have include he's earned an MBA from marketing from Villanova with a marketing specialization, a BA in public relations from Temple University, and an international business certificate from Bocconi University in Milan, Italy. A little international flavor there. Josh is also a Google Analytics and AdWords certified and holds an inbound marketing certificate and sales certificate, both from HubSpot. Josh, please do take it away.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Hope everybody's well. As we were saying, we want to make this very interactive. So please ask questions through chat. I'll stop along the way and answer them. And we're going to have a little bit of fun as we go through this presentation. And I hope you get a lot out of it. If I'm going too fast or too slow, let me know. And again, happy to answer any questions along the way. If everybody wants to take a second and jump into the chat and say hi, just to make sure it's all working properly, go for it. Also, I like to use these opportunities for relationship building, so feel free to jump in there and share your contact information. As people ask questions, some other people may want to follow up with them, and we can all have fun doing this. All right, so let's jump right in. Obviously, today's conversation is around launching your e-commerce platform the right way. There's a lot of wrong ways to do it. So we're going to talk about some of the best practices that are out there. And I'll give you a little bit of an agenda. We're going to just do a little introduction, a little bit about me, a little bit about my history with Score, tiny bit about River Avenue Digital. We're going to talk about why e-commerce. We want to attract new customers. We don't want any geographic limitations, and we want to lower our overhead. And then we're going to get into the nitty gritty. And this is, I think, where all of the great questions are going to come in. Business planning, what platform do we use? The logistics part of it, which is can get pretty detailed. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about the law, which is the most boring part of this. And we're going to talk about analytics, the part that makes it exciting, especially for me. So, introduction. Just a little bit about me. You've heard a lot of this already. Just a little bit more about River Avenue Digital. We are located in Delaware County. So we are a little bit east of you, where our office is right by the airport. And I, as CEO of River Avenue Digital, I like to surround myself with people who are a lot smarter than me. So a lot of them had a lot of input in putting together this presentation and giving the details. And e-commerce is a part of what we do. We are a full service marketing agency. But e-commerce is kind of one of the things that we really like to do, along with branding and providing fractional CMO services. You could read more about what we do and who we are on our website, and check out the fantastic team I surround myself with. So why e-commerce? Mentioned a few reasons, but the big reason is there's dollars to be made out there. Look at the way that this hockey stick looks on this graph. And you can see what the pandemic did to it, but it's not stopping. Most of you probably see trucks driving around delivering things. I know there's at least a box or two on my front steps on a daily basis. Some of them for me, most of them are for my wife and my son, but you can visually notice what's happening around you, and a lot of that is on the e-commerce side, and it's expanding way beyond what Amazon is doing. So the dollars, the billions and billions of dollars that are related to what's going on here really make this a no-brainer if your business is positioned to do this the right way. So business planning, and I mean, this is where I give a huge shout out to SCORE. I am a SCORE graduate. I was sitting in a Chamber of Commerce meeting, a Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, nearby where our office is. And a gentleman came up and said, hey, we can kind of mentor you and tutor you, and it's free, and you'll get some great information. And I said, free? Yeah, let's do it. So sat down with a group of gentlemen for about a year and a half, used them as a sounding board, didn't want to create this business in a vacuum. And they gave me great advice along the way. And I mean, the end of the story was I ended up winning Business of the Year award in 2019. And a lot of it has to do with the mentorship that I got from SCORE. So when it comes to developing any type of business, but I could see how it works, especially with the e-commerce business planning is key. And again, got a lot out of SCORE when putting this together, and obviously you are too, and that's why you're here. So I'm just going to go through some of these bullets, and we can discuss these through the chat if anybody's interested. But you want to test the feasibility of your business idea. And I always say that when you see an e-commerce business, or there's two things that can happen. There's a lot of people doing it, or no one's doing it. And when no one's doing it, it's tricky, because you either have the idea of a lifetime, or it's just not a good idea. So really dig in and figure out if your business plan is feasible and what you want to sell is going to be useful. Obviously, budgeting. What gives your business the best chance of success? How does e-commerce fit in your overall plan? Do you already have a brick and mortar and you're moving to e-commerce? Is e-commerce part of a hybrid model that you're putting together, or are you just going to go virtual? We have clients in all three of those categories. One client recently decided, you know what, there's an opportunity here. I'm going to take advantage of it. Let's build an e-commerce platform. His e-commerce platform is now 4 times the size of his brick and mortar, which he never expected to happen. He had a great lifestyle business with his brick and mortar. And then once he decided to go online, it just went through the roof because there was a need and a want for what he was selling. Other companies that we have as clients, they are only online and have a whole mechanism to make sure that they are selling to the right people, the right places at the right time. And then there's people who just are kind of dabbling in it and want to experiment. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the barrier to entry is fairly low. A big lesson I learned was don't develop your plan in a vacuum. Use your friends, family, SCORE mentors as sounding boards to make sure that what you're doing makes sense. Have goals. You want to set those goals and make sure that you're striving for them. Understand who your customers are and where they are. That helps you with the marketing piece of what you're doing. And figure out what the best platform is. And we'll talk a lot about platforms today. Let me take a pause here and see if anybody has any questions. And feel free to just drop them right in the chat. And if not, we'll move right along. So here are 3 examples of businesses that are online. And one of them has a brick and mortar and an online presence. One of them is totally online. And you can see the difference. All these 3 businesses do the exact same thing. They sell watches. And you can see different approaches people take. The one all the way to the left is more informational, and the other 2 are very visual. So one thing that we believe at River Avenue Digital is that one thing that can differentiate you is your story and your ability to tell that story. And out of the 3 of these online platforms, the one to the left, which tells their story and explains the brands that they sell, does a bit better than the rest of them. We have an online resource that I'm happy to give to anybody at no cost, and competitive analysis report. So you can fill in the blanks on this. Happy to send it to you as a blank slate. And again, when you don't want to create what you're doing in a vacuum, you want to see what other businesses are doing and try to build a better mousetrap. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but it makes sense to really sit down and systematically see what your competitors are doing so you can do it better, so you don't make the mistakes that they're making, and that you can accelerate what you're doing a lot faster. I find this template very useful. Again, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. I'm happy to send it to anybody. At the end of the presentation, you'll also see a link where we have a 40-point checklist of things to do to start your e-commerce site and make sure that you don't miss any steps along the way. And again, that's free, no cost, and happy to give that out. And that one's a link on our website that you can just go to. Gave the shout out to SCORE already. Again, invaluable resource. You can really get a lot out of it. And my takeaway from SCORE is I had a group of people who were smarter than me that said, great idea, bad idea, don't do this, don't do that. Did you consider this? And it was very helpful along the way as I was building the business. So does anybody that's listening have an e-commerce store right now? Just type YRN into the chat. I'd like to see kind of where we are as a group. All right. Kendall sells on Amazon. That's cool. Teresa has a online store. Awesome. So we have a mixed bag here, but we'll start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. So let's just dive right in. Domain name. Domain name is the address that you put into Google or your browser to find the store. So when you type in riveravdigital.com, you'll get to us, and the name of our business is River Avenue Digital. So it makes a lot of sense. I'm not telling you anything you already don't know there. But when you're choosing a domain name, which you can buy from Google or GoDaddy or a number of other places, you want it to be brandable, you want it to be short, you want it to be unique, you want it to be memorable. A mistake that a lot of people make is that they create a domain name that's very long. You want it to be short enough that it's memorable, people don't get tired typing it, and you can get to it right away. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're preparing your online store. And you want to grab a domain, even if you're not going to use it. They're $12 a year at the most for a .com if no one else owns it. And you can always keep it in your back pocket. All right, let's jump into logistics. This is a heavy part of this presentation, but it's so important. So a lot of things you really need to think about as you're building out your e-commerce store. And inventory. where you're keeping it, where you're getting it from. Are you able to get it at a lower rate and sell it for more? Hopefully you are. So think about that. Storage, where you're keeping that inventory before you sell it. Shipping, how are you going to get it from point A to point B? And there's a lot of different ways to do that. Drop shipping, that's one way that people take care of shipping, and there's companies out there that will house your inventory and ship it for you, or you can self-ship it. You can have a whole bunch of stuff in your facility, in your garage, in your self-storage place, and you can ship it out yourself. Payment gateways. Payment gateways are interesting. There's a lot of different ones there, but this is how credit card payments are processed through your e-commerce store. We'll get into that a little bit more as we go forward. Delivery service, again, that goes with shipping. Postage, how are you going to handle that? Are you going to use multiple delivery services, or are you going to use one? Inventory, we mentioned already. Oh, double that up. Returns and refunds, how are you going to handle that? You need a process in place, because if all of a sudden you get a whole bunch of returns and you have to give refunds, it could get a little bit sticky. And then packaging. How are you going to package? We have one client that does a fantastic job of packaging and really helps him tell his story. So he'll gift wrap everything that he sends out. This is one of the watch companies that we work with. He'll gift wrap everything that he sends out and put together a personal note that says, thank you for buying it. And that leaves a lasting impression, and it brings back repeat business. Before we go on to the next slide, I see a comment. Great info on securing your domain name, inexpensive insurance to get the name that you want. Great point. I agree 100%. So platform, we get this question a lot. What platform should I build my e-commerce site on? Should I build it myself, or should I buy it? We always suggest, if you're starting off, to buy a platform, and I'll explain exactly what that means momentarily. There's a lot of different options out there. There's Wix, there's WooCommerce, there's BigCommerce, there's Squarespace, there's Shopify. You've probably heard of a few of these, and their main purpose in this world is to make it easy for you to sell on their platform, because obviously they get a piece of the pie. But it is inexpensive compared to the other option of custom building something that could be costly, that could be not as scalable. Again, these companies are experts in e-commerce, and they make it a lot easier for you to kind of plug and play. We had a client that had a great idea. They came to us and said, we want to start selling tomorrow. So with the Shopify platform, we were able to kind of get them up and running in a week at a low cost, and they were able to kind of take off right away. If you are to try to create a platform yourself, you have to probably find somebody to code it. You have to find somebody to understand your specs. So again, dealing with these pre-made platforms are good, and design and search engine optimization, all stuff we'll get into, is pretty easy. So again, cost effective, you're able to customize. They're innovative tools, and each of these platforms is trying to stay in front of the other one. So they are incentivized to come up with new and great ways for you to interact and to make your life easier as an online seller. They have built-in marketing solutions. So whether it's email marketing, whether it's search engine optimization, whether it's having a email capture on the home page, all these things are built in, and you really don't have to think too much about them or think about how you're going to develop them. Logistics management, I'll show you an example of that, which is fascinating. It helps you keep track of your inventory and helps you understand who's buying, what they're buying. And then outside help, there's companies like us that understand these platforms and can jump in and help with them. Whereas if you're building it yourself, the only person that really truly understands the platform is the developer who does it. So we have used all these platforms, and we created a table which shows how we feel about what they each does well and what each may have trouble with. And we graded them by price, by flexibility, by SEO. SEO, for those that don't know, search engine optimization. It's what makes you get to the top of Google when you're searching for something. Tax settings, it's the little things like that that you're gonna say, oops, I should have thought of that beforehand. Can I find help here? So this presentation will go out to all of you at the end of it. So you'll have this grid for you to look at. This is a snapshot of the back end of Shopify. I just wanted to show an example. A lot of them have similar things you can look at. You can see in here that there's order numbers, the date that somebody ordered, there's the customer's name and email address that you can click through to find out more about that customer, how many times have they ordered in the past, what they've purchased. You can see how much they spent. You can see if they paid, if something was a refund. You can check off if the shipment was fulfilled or not so that you can keep track of it and how many items they ordered in their purchase. Another internal screenshot of Shopify, and you can see that I kind of blocked out some of the personal information just to protect the innocent here. We work with a lot of watch brands, and one thing that we often hear is that gentlemen often purchase watches without telling their wives, so we don't want this guy to get in trouble. You can see that the UPS shipping numbers here, which automatically gets input based on the settings that were set up in this instance of Shopify, customer's name, their address, conversion summary, which I love. The analytics really can tell you. So he's been on the site 19 times over 12 days, and he came from Google, and this is his first order. So this guy was kicking the tires. And then we can also dive in this conversion detail to find out what might have been the catalyst that made him finally buy. Did he see an email? Did he come through an email after he was on Google? But it's really interesting to see how everybody gets to their purchase decision. And hopefully you get to the point where you have so many sales that you're not analyzing this, but in the beginning, you kind of get addicted to the analytics piece of it. You can see that this guy has low chance of fraud. And that's another thing that these platforms do, is that they can spot fraud in many cases so that you don't get caught in a bad situation. I have a question here. How does Square compare to Shopify? Square is a platform that's buying up a whole bunch of other platforms. It originally started as a payment gateway for people to pay, and now they have purchased a company called Weebly, which is sometimes called Square now. And I like Shopify a lot better. I think it's a bit more robust in terms of what you can do. And there's not a lot of limitations on Square, but I think part of it is just being more used to using Shopify. Square's not bad, but I do like Shopify better. Okay, so web hosting. One thing you want to look for in hosts is reliability, availability, price, security, customer service, backups, and scalability. When you're looking at all these, one thing you keep in mind is that most of the platforms that I mentioned have hosting included, so you don't really have to worry about it. If you're using WooCommerce, which is a offshoot of WordPress, then you do have to think about hosting, which is not a big deal. I mean, we have plenty of websites which we take care of the hosting for our clients, but these are the steps or things that you need to think about as you're procuring a host. And we use a host for most of the websites that we run for our clients called Green Geeks. And the reason I like that is because of security and customer service. I'm reassured that that there is a layer of security, and also that if I have a problem, there's somebody who's smart on the other side that can answer the issue that I have. Another thing you want to think about too is backups. I have all the sites that we manage backed up every night. So in case something does happen, something catastrophic, we can revert to the last day of what's going on. But again, when you're using a Shopify, when you're using Square, when you're using Squarespace, hosting is included in those deals. Architecture and design. This is awful architecture and design. So this is an actual website that was out there. I don't know if it still exists, but it was out there at one time. And the goal of a website is to get people where they need to go and quickly, and make sure that they understand what's going on. Here, it just looks like a mess, and I wouldn't know where to begin or where to end. But there's something a little bit more, I'll call it smoothed out, where I know I'm buying shoes. I can shop. For shoes, for bags, or for extras. Here's my cart. I could find things I like. I could search. I know that there's free shipping and returns. And here's an easy domain name that's not forgettable if you've seen this brand before. So again, bad, good. And marketing, our favorite part of the whole process. This is the engine that keeps it driving. But before we get there, let's take a little quiz. So marketing's all about funnels, and how do you get somebody from point A, which is interest in a product, to actually purchasing a product. So take a look at these four options, and in the chat, let me know what you think is the right sequence of stages in the marketing funnel, and I'll let you know what the right answer is. All right, well, 2 people got it right off the bat. So the answer is C: awareness, interest, consideration, intent, evaluation, and purchase. And here is one way to look at it. And I'm not going to get into the details, but this shows some of the tactics associated with the marketing funnel. And it all starts with lead generation, nurturing, and then sales. And as you're developing your business plan when it comes to e-commerce, you need to really think about how to get somebody from point A, awareness, to the sale, and everything in between. So there's a sequence and a customer journey that you probably should identify before you start selling. Biggest myth: if you build an e-commerce platform, people are going to automatically buy from you. That is not the case. We've seen people who have had the greatest ideas, but the worst sales performance because they didn't do the marketing. So the old "if a tree falls in the forest" situation. So the 5 Ps in marketing, and you have to make sure you're thinking about all these. Is the product right? Is your pricing on point? Do you know who the audience is for people? Are you promoting it the right way? And is it in the right place? So as you consider all these, you just want to make sure that you have answers related to these. An interesting thing about price, and we've seen this with several clients, is that you often say, "Oh man, no one's buying this product. What do we do? Oh, let's lower the price." We've had situations where no one's buying the product. what do? We increase the price. And that kind of changed the narrative and the story of the product and brought it into a new market. And all of a sudden sales went through the roof. So lowering price is not always the right answer. Marketing tactics that we often use to get people through that funnel that we showed before, ads on Google and Facebook. And people will often say, should I post social media? Should I do ads on Facebook or Instagram or Google? The answer really is knowing your audience and knowing where they are. So figuring out who they are and then matching it up with the demographics of certain platforms is probably the best thing to consider. Social media is great to get the message out there. Again, know where to put it. Social credibility. This is something that's often forgotten. And I don't know if you're like me, but if I go to Amazon and I see a product, the first thing I do is I look at the best reviews and the worst reviews. I don't care about what's in the middle, because it'll tell me that, okay, there's 500 5-star reviews, there's 100 1-star reviews. What does 1-star reviews think? But that is the social credibility that kind of builds up on getting that feedback loop and understanding what people think of a certain product. And then obviously email marketing. On your e-commerce platform, you're going to want to collect people's email addresses and do it legally, and make sure that you are letting them know about what's new, telling your story, sharing any holiday discounts with them that you may have. But email marketing is a great way to get in touch with people. Here's the part that gets me sad, like this dog, legal. So things to think about as you're building out your platform is collecting taxes, figuring out what your state laws are. Terms and conditions, you have to have those in place. Your refund policy, your privacy policy, what information that you're sharing, what information you're keeping, shipping, returns, and then when it comes to payment gateway, you want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row there. And again, a lot of the platforms take care of some of this stuff for you, but you really need to think about how you're going to do your logistics when it comes to like shippings and returns. This is just, keep in mind there's privacy laws out there. You don't want to take people's data and share it. Again, the platforms have a good way to protect you against this sort of liability, but know the law, understand it, and you probably won't fall into any traps that we've seen over the years. And I'm not going to read this to you because it's legal mumbo jumbo, but it will be in the deck when you get it. Something big that's happening is in the EU, there's a GDPR act that's going on, and this is just about keeping data and protecting people's data. And if you mess around with this, there could be fines involved if you're dealing with people in the EU. My favorite thing, analytics. Analytics helps you tell the entire story of what's going on there. So if people aren't buying, you can dig into your analytics, figure out where they're getting stuck, how far they're getting. One thing that's very interesting that we often take a look at is how many people are getting into the shopping cart but not buying. And analytics is going to be able to tell you that. And then at that point, what do? Some of the tactics that we've used in the past was send an email. Hey, you left something in your shopping cart. Just wanted to remind you. Or even get more aggressive and say, if you buy now, there's a 5% discount for you. And that gets people over the hump and may alleviate any fear that they have of purchasing your product. But again, analytics can really help you understand what's going on your site. So I'm going to open it up for questions momentarily, but some of the questions we get often, and by often I mean 10, 20 times a month, what is the best platform for my product? Again, do the research on your own, but if somebody kind of holds me to the fire. I often say Shopify is the best place to start. Where do I start? You start with your business plan. That is critical. People just want to jump in and say, oh, I'm going to start selling tomorrow. But put that plan together. Make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's, because there's a lot of things that could sneak up and get you on the legal side or the logistics side. What KPIs should I be monitoring? KPIs, key performance indicators. You want to obviously get traffic to your site. You want to make sure that traffic's staying on your site for longer periods of time as your site grows. You want to make sure people are buying. You want to make sure you're making money, and that you are moving your products quickly, because the one thing that can be problematic, and we've seen this a million times, is people go to a site, they buy, and the store owner is not shipping quick enough. And then all of a sudden your social credibility goes down because the reviews are negative, and no one wants to have that. Are there hidden costs I'll find as I set this up? No, I would create the budget up front, look at the costs of the platforms, understand that you'll probably need a little help here and there, but there's nothing is gonna, if you, again, make sure that you're doing everything you need to do, there won't be many hidden costs at all. It would probably be zero. So any question from the crowd? How important is mobile website platform responsive design compared to the PC? Mobile is probably more important now than the design on the PC. When Google looks at a website and decides, where am I going to put this in terms of search rankings? That's one of the things that they look at, and that helps your site tremendously. Every site ends up being different based on the users of the site, but we're seeing more and more people, sometimes over 50, 60, 70% are purchasing through their mobile phone. So responsive design and mobile first mentality is critical. And these platforms help you take care of that. So it makes it easy. Any other questions for people who are getting ready to set up their e-commerce stores? Hopefully I didn't scare you off. What are your recommendations for customer interactions with a vendor, asking questions, etc.? Yes, that's critical. You want to make sure, first of all, that if you are working with a vendor, somebody helping you deal with this, you want to make sure that the expectations are set. So ask a ton of questions. Don't be afraid. The good companies that you're going to work with are going to be happy to answer those questions and can answer those questions clearly and concisely. If there is a fuzzy answer, it's a red flag, and you're really going to want to make sure that you hold people accountable for anything that's going on. So questions, have a strong contract in place, and be comfortable with the relationship that you're going to build with this person, because they're going to help you kind of hopefully take you to the promised land and sell a lot of whatever it is that you're selling. When you're dealing with one of the platforms, the relationship's pretty standard and straightforward. They'll have a support desk, they'll have people that can help you. But again, there's people outside of those platforms that can also help as well. Any other questions? What about responding to negative comments? I'm glad you asked that question, especially things that create negative impressions. We always say that respond to every comment that somebody leaves. It could become a pain in the butt, but it's important because it shows that you're an active business owner, that you care, that you're interested. Responding to negative comments, that's not for the person who had the bad experience per se. It's mostly for other people that are going to read that negative comment and see how the business owner answered it. A fantastic example we have clients outside of e-commerce, a restaurant that we work with. They got a poor review on OpenTable, and the review said the calamari made my wife especially sick. We're never coming back here. It's disgusting what you do. How the nerve of you. So the business owner said to us, how should I answer this? This is weird because we don't sell calamari. So we put together kind of a tongue-in-cheek response to that person. And that response got a lot of likes and a lot of interest because the person was putting the negative response to the wrong restaurant. So make sure that you answer those negative responses. But again, those negative responses aren't for the person who is upset, because there's probably not much you can do there, but it's for everybody else. If I start with one platform, should I worry about changing if it's not working out? Changing is troublesome. You probably want to do your research really well up front so you don't have to change. It's possible to do so, but when you become invested, you want to kind of stick with the horse that you came in on. We've helped companies do that in the past, but and it can make it painless, but you want to keep all of your analytics, all your data, everything in one place. In addition to the SEO ideas you presented, are there others? Yeah, I mean, SEO is a whole nother presentation on its own. And again, the platforms can help you, kind of guide you in the right direction, but you want people to find your website on their own by using the right keywords. So for instance, when I showed you those 3 watch websites early on in the presentation, people are going to do searches for the brands that are on those websites. And in some of those cases, the SEO is so good that these resellers of those brands show up above the main brand. So again, keep SEO in mind, but that's another deep dive topic that can be discussed. But again, we're happy to answer questions on that, as that's something that we do here at River Avenue Digital. Some good questions. I appreciate it. Well, if anybody has, before we get to that, jot down this URL. This is the 40-point e-commerce checklist that I mentioned early on, and feel free to take it. It's a PDF. You can download it and make it work for you. It could be useful as you're going down this journey. And then finally, here's how to reach me. Again, happy to have conversations, answer questions about anything that you may have, guide you in the right direction. Again, we love SCORE. It did a lot for our business, and happy to do anything to support SCORE mentees, mentors, or anybody else interested. So thank you all very much. I appreciate your time, and don't be a stranger. Let's connect on LinkedIn.
Okay, before I let everyone go and before we let Josh go, we certainly want to thank Josh. Thank you. Josh, that was, dare I say, like a masterclass. I mean, every single thing had something really valuable for us to learn. I'm going to see if I can bring up a poll, a very brief poll, for folks to go ahead and give us your impressions of Josh's session with us. And I can tell you for myself, it has been outstanding in terms of what I think I personally have learned. I know a number of folks who have or want to have an e-commerce site who could not attend, in addition to the ones who could, and they will be getting this. They will be getting this after the fact once it's recorded and put out there publicly. So again, I do want to thank Josh, you for your insights, the attendees for your attention to Josh's presentation, and maybe we can hold Josh accountable to coming back with some of the SEO stuff next time. I think I heard that in there somewhere.
Happy to.
Great, great. Again, on behalf of the Lancaster-Lebanon chapter of SCORE, thank you to everyone for your attention and attendance today, and a special thank you to Josh for the great insights. And again, congratulations for being an award winner. It's no surprise to me why you are an award winner. All right, we're going to sign off now. Take care, everyone. Have a great afternoon.